and I am a resident in Lancaster. I was a refugee who came here when I was 2. So I just want to talk about how COVID, racism and resistance has affected a place like Lancaster. So like most people during lockdown, I use social media as my form of escapism. And I was just happening to be scrolling through my Facebook, and there's this name trending and there was a video attached to it. In that same week, on that same day, was also the incident with Amy Cooper, you know, a woman who used her white privilege to endanger an innocent Black man's life. And that man was Christian Cooper, no relation whatsoever. And it was a stark reminder that what happened to George Floyd is what Amy Cooper hoped would happen to Christian Cooper. People argued, oh, that's over there, it's over the pond, it's in America, it doesn't affect us here in the UK. But this time it was different. I'd seen so many avoidable deaths of Black people, you know, reported on the news, and you just become desensitized to it. Whether with George Floyd's death, it triggered something in me that none of the murders had done before. I was frustrated and angry because even during a pandemic, they cannot let us rest. Police brutality has no rest days, apparently. But this time there's a difference. The world was watching. You know, we were all locked in our homes, protecting ourselves from the pandemic, which was engulfing the world. So we had no other option but to gaze at our screens and, you know, look at our news feeds. You couldn't escape it this time, and you couldn't use the ignorance card of, oh, I didn't know, I didn't see that. This story was everywhere and George Floyd's name was on everyone's lips. So people had had enough. So places, big cities like London and Manchester, you know, they started doing their protests and creating vigils to support those going around the world. And coming from Lancaster, I didn't think this was going to be achievable. And Lancaster's a small city, you know, in the northwest, predominantly white. And I didn't even think people would know who George Floyd was, let alone put a vigil, especially for him. Up to this moment, I hadn't left the house. I'd restricted my time out of the house. But when it came to this, there was no question about it. I was going to attend. And what was going to happen, I didn't know. You know, I'd seen on the TV the turnout at the Manchester Piccadilly Gardens, you know, the massive people who went out to support Black Lives Matter movement in London. So how's that going to look in a place in a northwest city like Lancaster? I'm one of a handful of Black families who live in Lancaster, and I've been here for 30 years. So I knew it was never going to resemble what I'd already seen. But actually what welcomed me when I did turn up on that day at the town hall, there was a massive children and young adults, you know, with their brandishing their homemade placards, you know, with the sign saying no justice, no peace. And it was bold for everyone to see, and the cars going past, you know, everyone's beeping in support. That was just amazing. And yes, we did have those people who were apprehensive, you know, saying, oh, COVID-19, and there's going to be a situation with the lack of social distancing. But our protest actually proved to be peaceful and a safe event. So tell me why I was still receiving, instead of messages of support, I was receiving negative comments from people who I consider friends. These weren't trolls, these are friends. They were writing statuses like, oh, there's a time and a place. And that those actually, the people attending the BLM protests and the allies were actually flouting, you know, the social distancing rules, and it didn't affect us, you know, and that protesting was deemed more important than our lives. Yet, in a time when we needed support, BLM actually highlighted who my friends were and who were actually the closet racist friends. Instead of empathizing, like, why it was important that the Black community had to stand up for their rights, even during a pandemic, they were here focusing on how we were doing it rather than on the why. So voicing their concerns, yeah, okay, there was going to be a rise in the COVID-19 cases, but that was a smokescreen for actually what they were trying to hide, their casual racism.
Geraldine, can I give you a 1-minute warning? Sorry.
Yes, sorry. So when I was saying to them, okay, I understand, yeah, but can you not see, if even the Black community, we're very aware that we're a high risk group. Does that not speak volumes that we're willing to go out and still you know, fight for our right. Yeah, the silence was deafening. You know, fast forward a few weeks when it was the heat wave and bank holiday weekend, you know, where the beaches were crammed. Did I see that same disapproval that Black people had received, you know, for attending the Black Lives Matter? No. So yes, I had to mourn some friendships, and you know, and they were both in professional manner and my personal. But what Martin Luther King said was, there comes a time when silence is betrayal. And I'm happy to say from this, there has been a resistance in Lancaster, and I'm very happy to have established a group, you know, the first Lancaster Black History Group. We're a community group where our aim is to fight racism through education. And we came about just because of the response of the Black Lives Matter protests in the city. So there is hope for us, and we are doing great things. The community is supporting us, we're supporting schools, and we're using education to fight racism. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine, and thank you for keeping to time.